concerned that we're not going to have any show up.
I'll be there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And I'm down to get some Rhinos tickets. I kind of want us to go together, like all four of us. Can we? Good afternoon, everybody. So today we bring to you Miss Carolyn Cervantes. Has your last name changed?
No, not yet.
Okay. Miss Carolyn Cervantes. She is with AAA Home and Termite Inspections. AAA is the home inspection company I've been using for a while now, and I love using AAA because they're super reputable. Very knowledgeable. They're always willing to give you a lot of information when it comes to like the inspection reports, always very willing to explain what something means to yourself or your client, very available to the client. Plus their availability is always pretty good. They're not like a lot of inspection companies where you book an appointment and then you have to wait like 3, 4, 5 days before actually getting them in. They can usually book you within 48 hours. And that's even like during their peak season. So that's one of the reasons I love working with them. And like I said, availability and just reputability. Everything's always very clear and concise, and they're always going to be willing to talk to your clients. So for those of you that are new agents or about to be new agents, when I first met the AAA team, I was very new and I didn't know anything about inspections. I didn't know anything about inspections, inspection reports, how to read them, what everything meant. And literally, I've probably learned 80 to 90% of what I know about property conditions just off of my inspection team that I work with. So if you want somebody that's going to really truly help you grow your business by providing that knowledge to you and always providing resources for you, definitely try AAA. Okay. So we are going to go over, we're actually going to go over an inspection report. Where are you? We're going to go, we're going to review an actual inspection report. And this is it. Can you know what? Let me download it. I think you'll see it better. Can you guys see my screen? Yeah, okay. So we're going to review a inspection report as if this was a report for your client, okay? If there's one thing that you should know as a realtor, there are a lot of common deficiencies that you're going to see in the property inspection reports dependent on your market. So we're going to put this video on YouTube. I know there's people that watch that are not necessarily in the El Paso market. Just know that what might be a typical deficiency in our market might not necessarily be a typical deficiency in your market. But if you're watching this video and you're in El Paso, that's what we're going to be going, El Paso and the surrounding areas. And you guys do service New Mexico also, right?
New Mexico. Mm-hmm.
So yeah. They service New Mexico also. If you're in Cruces, Albuquerque, they'll service all of that. Did you want to start with the very first page, or should I just jump into the deficiencies?
Yeah, so I mean, we printed out, we did the longest report possible to where it shows a lot of things we can talk about. It is a lot of things that I won't get into detail because it's a lot to learn. Even I had to learn this stuff to understand it, and little stuff that can be easily fixed. Mm-hmm. But we're going to review mostly the major things that could be an issue that you guys can negotiate. But yeah, like Ms. Franco says, we are available. You get the same day reports. As long as it's been paid for and signed, you'll get the report the same day of the inspection, because I know you guys are in a time period. So we try to get those issued out to y'all as soon as possible so y'all can review with your client and start negotiating. So this is typically what our home inspection will look like. It'll have a picture in front of the house, who it's for, your client's name, address, our inspector information, okay? And so the inspection will be in all black. All black is just information or for your information, what we found and things like that. As you start opening up the report, you'll start seeing things in blue. When you see things in blue, these are defects, okay? So we always start outside. My inspectors, the first thing they do is they get on the roof. This usually gives time for the client to get there if they want to be present, if the realtor's running late to open up the door and they didn't give us a 1-day code. They start outside. They start going through it to get a head start while everybody gets there or things like that. So it's broken down. You'll see subsections in our reports. Way at the top, you'll see an I for inspected, an I for not inspected, and P not present or D deficient. And then as you scroll down, you'll be able to see X's on the inspection that was done. The foundation, as you see in A, there's a check mark on I, it was inspected. Major things here that you would find in a typical home would be something structural. It's not very common, but we do have pictures of like major cracks in it was in a porch of a house, but this was because the foundation was clay. It was a clay foundation, and so there will always maybe be some sort of cracks, due to foundation situations. But in our reports, again, you'll come accustomed to seeing black, the information, what we checked, and then in blue, what we found defective, and then our inspectors will usually put a how-to. This is how you fix it. This is what a GFCI looks like. This is what this looks like for you guys to be like, for better understanding for your client. Because remember, you need to say this, we cannot say what is and isn't important in the home inspection. At the end of our home inspection reports, you'll have a summary of everything we found that we think is deficient. We cannot tell you this one's more important than this one, and this one's more important than that one, because you will have different types of clients.
Can I jump in there? Mm-hmm. As realtors, you can't really say that either, or you can't say that either, because you just have to take into consideration what's important to that client, what means do they have, what is it that they're looking for. So it's nice to know what are your top ticket items. Okay, that's nice to know, like to be able to point out that's a top ticket item, that's a top ticket item. And what I mean by that is like, it's gonna cost some money to fix. As you go through inspection reports, you're going to start learning what these items are, but it's never for neither the inspector or us to say, worry about this one and don't worry about this one. Like we can't tell them what to worry about. They may worry about every little thing or worry about, certain things, but we're going to get into every single category that's going to be reviewed, and then what's common for you to see there and what's kind of uncommon, and just so you know what to look out for. So like Caro was saying, the foundation and the grading, these are the foundation is definitely a major ticket item. If your foundation's off in your house, that's huge. If that comes back deficient, you really want to make sure that you talk to your client about, their options and how sure they are about purchasing this home. They might want to do an extra inspection, but those issues, at least here in El Paso, they're not very common. We don't typically see a lot of foundation issues. Okay. Grading and drainage, again, we don't typically see a lot of issues there. It looks like just maybe whenever dogs are around, they might be digging holes. You might see something like that. I know one of the ones that I see also is sometimes they have the planters very close to the house. That's something that gets spotted out, but more for the termites. Mm-hmm. So that's just a little something to see, but it's kind of typical to see it like this, all in black.
Right. And again, foundation, it's not a major issue. If it is, you'll see in blue that we recommend that they get a structural engineer, because they will be the ones to tell you yes, no, or whatever the case may be. Because keep in mind, there will sometimes always be settlement, because maybe I have a family of 3 and now it's a family of 7. So always keep in mind that that is always going to be some sort of settlement. And the world is constantly moving and shifting, so your house will too.
Yeah.
So moving on to the roof, again, on these, the most common things we find, you'll see them in blue. Always, we will always recommend the resealing. We will always recommend for them to fix the cracks. And on C6, we will always recommend, if there's any exposure or broken tiles, things like that. Again, we are not the roofers, but this is one of the number one things we would suggest to get all of it taken care of. But reading your clients, if your client is a construction worker or a roofer, that might not be so much of a big deal for them, because they can fix it. Or you have a plumber as a client and maybe the roofing is major important and the plumbing isn't, because he's a plumber or his brother-in-law is a plumber, things like that. But like, as you can see, it'll show you what we see as defects, and these are all mostly maintenance things that just need to be taken care of, looked out for, and maintaining the house. And then you'll see pictures. When you scroll down, you'll see pictures of evidence of the defects we found. And then you'll see recommendations. This can be fixed like this, or it can be fixed like that, or talk to a roofer or 2 or 3 and get prices to see what it's going to cost. But the roof is probably the number one thing that we would recommend or suggest, I guess is the correct word, to request for them to fix all of that.
I would recommend also, once you guys start doing your inspections, please talk to your inspectors about the roof specifically. Whenever a buyer sees that the roof has deficiencies, they get scared. Like, nobody wants to see that the roof has a deficiency in their home. However, these deficiencies that were listed, they're very, very common. And like Caro said, they're maintenance related. So it's like, repatching here and like repatching these little cracks right here. This is what they're talking about. Like this is resealing that needs to happen. But if you see the roof as a whole, it doesn't look like it's in horrible condition, and it's because it's not. It's really not in horrible condition. It just has the common deferred maintenance that most of El Paso homes have. So that's what you want to be able to communicate to your client, so that they don't see, oh my gosh, there's roof deficiencies. Ya no quiero la casa. I don't even want the house anymore.
Right.
Never mind. You don't want that response from them. So you want to make sure that you communicate that correctly. Like, hey, these are very typical maintenance issues here in El Paso. We can ask for them to get it done. And then a lot of times the seller will even look at it and be like, oh my gosh, what's all this on the roof? And they don't even recognize exactly what roof maintenance they've been missing. So that one's super common. You're going to see it on almost every inspection report. Don't be surprised by it. Make sure that you're confident when you are explaining this to your client. Okay.
Right, because we will put anything water related. Okay, so these the resealing, if they don't reseal it and it rains or it snows, it'll eventually trickle down. So it'll be the roof, the ceiling, you'll get yellow patches, and then it just trickles down. So something minor that they can get fixed, taken care of, so you avoid those other issues that it could cause. Okay, so that's the roof. Again, you'll see pictures and things of examples of what needs to be fixed and whatnot. The roof structures and attics, the main thing you'll see here will start on D7. So it'll be the soffits, that there's water damage. These are very common. also. Then it'll show you the repairs, and you'll see in the pictures what soffits are. Again, I had to learn this stuff. What's a soffit? What's a Eve? So yes, kind of learn this stuff so you can explain to your client what are they talking about when they're talking about soffits. And even if you guys don't remember or don't, you can always call us. Our inspectors are very good about explaining things, and walking them through to ease their mind in regards to what soffits and eaves are, that have holes in structures. So the soffit is usually these things up here, what goes over the, if I'm not mistaken, what goes over the roof, and then those will you'll usually be deteriorated because of rain, wood, the sun beating down on it, things like that. Those, again, you can replace them and correct them. Very simple, easy stuff.
Okay.
And then moving on to the walls. Stucco will be very common. So right here, walls, interior and exterior. Again, maintenance on E2 and E3. It'll say exterior stucco wall showed, fissures, cracking, unfinished, unsealed stucco. Very common in El Paso, especially in the far east side. Again, E3 recommend weatherproofing, sealing all penetrations to exterior wall. Again, this goes back to the family size, settlement. It starts to crack and shift because now there's 7 or 8 people in the house instead of just 3. Again, we will recommend a structural engineer if it's something bigger than what it is. But those reseals of the stucco, again, very easy, and simple to do. We can't say cheap or expensive because to me it might be expensive and to Denise it might be cheap. So
I will talk on the stucco walls. You're going to have them everywhere. Get used to seeing them and get used to seeing the cracks on them. Okay. Cracks again on stucco is going to be just like the roof having these small areas that need to be repatched and touched up. The stucco, here our heat, the heat from the sun dries up that stucco and it cracks it. Okay, so it's not going to last very long before it cracks. That doesn't mean that it's a bad house. That doesn't mean that it wasn't built correctly. Right. It's just what stucco does after a certain amount of time of the heat beating on it. Now, you do want to, like if it's just hairline cracks,
paint it.
That's very normal. Yeah, you can just reseal and paint those. Now, if they're a lot thicker, that's when it's a little more of an issue, and you definitely want to make sure that that gets fixed, because if the water goes in, now it actually can seep through the house, seep through the wood can start rotting. Like now there's a whole nother issue that could happen. But as far as the little cracks, don't be super alarmed by those. Okay.
So yeah, once you scroll up, you'll see just a bunch of examples of where we found cracks. So there's cracks, and they'll put arrows and stuff, and you'll see the cracks in the house. Cracks just all over.
And see, they're not even really big. Like you can't
cracks.
even. Okay, that one's
cracks in here. But again, these are just examples. There's cracks up here and there. This one. Again, they won't put all of them, but they'll just let you know that they are there. So they'll put a lot of examples on there. The next thing would be ceilings and fans. Again, starting on F1. Again, black is just for your information, and CYA, if I can say that.
CYA.
Cover your apple.
Like CYA.
We let you know if there has been something that we noticed that has been repaired. We'll let you know, hey, it's been repaired. It's there, it was done. We don't see it as a defect, but just know that it's been replaced, fixed, or something. And then in blue, again, you'll see the defects. So F2 will show you previous water intrusion, damage to the ceiling. So maybe close to that area, maybe that side, maybe the ceiling was fixed, but not this side. So again, it just goes down to maintenance. F5 is a major maintenance one, which you'll see in the next picture. It's just regrouting the floor. So if you scroll up to see the bathroom, this, very common. All you have to do is regrout. How do you regrout? You go to Home Depot, you buy, I don't know how to say in English, goking. You buy a gun and you just, that is all you do. The tube may cost, I think, $5 or $8.
Yeah.
You just regrout it. Super simple.
Yeah.
Manageable for the sellers to do or your buyer to do when they move in, or again, depending on your client, however you see them to manage the house.
And it's just important for everybody to understand that some of these items, they're really just normal wear and tear. So if you're looking at a resale home, something like this it's really normal wear and tear. So not only do we not want it to break the deal because the buyer freaks out about it, but we also don't want it to break the deal because the buyer asks for it to be fixed. Like we don't want them going in and asking for, we want them to focus on the major items for themselves. Like what are the major items? And at least I believe the major items are the major ticket items. Okay. So like let's say the roof was actually like in bad condition. That's a major ticket item. We'll get into like the water heater, we'll get into the HVAC unit, we'll get into all of that. But these items right here, typically very common and very, very typical of just regular wear and tear.
Those are just more examples of regrouting and things that they found. The next one will be the doors. The inside and outside, very common. G1 is very common and almost in every inspection. The gaps, evident from doors. It can allow dust, insects, water to seep in. I guess one to really focus on, just depending again on the type of client you have, is G4. The garage door has double key lock. So you need a key from outside and a key from inside. So in the case of an emergency and they can't get out or they can't find the key and you have no windows in the room, maybe you want to change those out because maybe your buyer is a 68-year-old single woman and she can't manage or things like that. So maybe that is a big deal because she's alone in the house and she can't find the keys and it's there's a fire. Again, it depends on your client, but these are the most common things we find in the doors. It may not be that important, but again, it depends on the client. So those you'll probably always see. The gaps, you see the gaps there, sunlight showed to be entering through the cracks of the front door.
That's right here.
If they want to fix it.
And they usually just ask you to do like a new weather stripping. It's like that little rubbery material that they can put a new one here. Yep. Sometimes it's such a small crack that even the buyers are like, Yeah.
The next one will be the windows. So H1 is one of the most common ones, condensation. What that means is the fogginess inside of the windows. And then it'll explain it to you for the most part. With the temperature and condensation, it may appear to disappear, or you may have to replace all the windows. Or maybe it's just in one bedroom, or maybe it's in all the bedrooms and all the windows. And if there's 20 windows and each window replacement is $50, it starts to add up. But again, it depends on the client. If it's not a big deal to them to replace, then they can replace them because maybe that's their side business, or maybe it is a big issue. But that's pretty common, the condensation. And then also On H2, the various windows show to have defective springs. Those are when you open and close windows, depending on how hard it is to open them and close them because they're not opened as much. Those springs can cost, I don't know, $20 to $30 each. And if you have to replace them on all the windows, again, it adds up. But if it has an HVAC and they never open the windows because the HVAC is running all day, every day, then it's not something they really have to worry about. But again, we're just letting them know that they may be defective or just hard to open and close.
Okay.
Any questions so far? I don't know, sorry. We're going really fast because there's a lot of things to cover. The next one would be the stairways. On these, again, it's only in the case of a 2-story house. There's usually never any issues or any major inspections here, except for the balusters. The balusters are, you have your staircase going up and then you have bars in between. Those are your balusters. We check that they are 4 inches apart, because if they are bigger than that, it becomes a case where a little kid can stick their head in there and get stuck, fall over the second floor, things like that. So on the stairs, we would check for the balusters mostly. The fireplaces, the major thing we check is the crown and the spark on the fireplaces, which will be on the roof. I don't think they posted a picture of it. But usually the chimney, it wasn't checked because the gas wasn't on in this house. But there will usually be a crown on top of the roof that will need to be checked. And usually it'll be to reseal the cement and replace the metal cap, which will probably cost them $65. And then the cement to redo another, I don't know, $50 as well, or less. It just depends on how beat up the chimney is from the outside. And again, there's things that we have to put on the report, which we'll get to. We have to put these things, even though they're not there or things like that. Just like you guys in your contracts, you guys can't remove clauses because the client doesn't want to sign 100 papers. They have to be there. As inspectors, according to TREC, we have a book and it says you have to put this, you have to put this about this, you have to put this about that. We can't remove things or not put them because to lose a deal or things like that. There's certain things on mostly all of them that we have to put. We have to. So moving on to the porches and the balconies.
Hang on, before you move on, you do have a little note here. So on this one, rock walls, this is something, this is an area also where they can find termites. So remember, keep in mind that the regular property inspection does not include the wood destroying insect inspection. So WDI, if you ever see WDI inspection, that's wood destroying insects, which is going to be like your termites, and I'm sure there's other insects, but termites is what you usually hear it by. If in this area it says something to the effect of, actually this right here, this structure was not inspected as part of the Texas standards. And if they are concerned about termites, you're gonna want to add that inspection on. If they are a VA client, they must get a termite inspection. So make sure that you order that at the same time. Okay.
Right, so we do not, by the state of Texas, we do not have to check detached structures. We can if they want us to, it'll be an extra charge. And like Denise said, you have to do it if it's a VA. If it's a VA, we have to check for termites. It'll only save you time because they're going to ask for it. And so just let us know at the beginning, like there's a detached structure, we need to include that and whatnot, and then we'll go ahead and get that checked out for them. Also in the other, it had the rock wall was deteriorating. In that situation, it's not a big deal of redoing it or not. Again, you have to negotiate with the neighbor because you guys share a wall, so it's a shared cost.
Mhm.
If they're willing to or not willing to, that just depends. You jump that bridge when you get there. The electrical system. So this is what we consider our number 2 important. So 1 is roofing, 2 is electrical. Again, you'll see everything in blue that is deficient. This is very common. You will almost always see this, improper color wiring. I don't want to get into much detail in this. Basic stuff.
Tell us the details, Caro. That one's there all the time.
1 wire per breaker. That is the rule. The general rule is 1 wire per breaker. There's 2 wires in 1 breaker. So it's broken down. Anything that is labeled black and red is a hot wire. That's where the power is running through. So all those red ones, those are the power ignited wires. We don't touch those. White is neutral. And if you see something green or bare, that means those are ground. So you'll usually see 3 colors. The panels never change. There will be 3 items to it. You'll have your hot wires, your ground wires, and then your neutral. So if you see improper color wiring, that's what that is. There's probably 2 wires in 1 breaker, and that's a big no-no. So we will put that, and that's very important, because if it causes a short or electrical malfunction, that causes fire causes insurance rates go up, and that's just a whole nother monster.
And I would recommend with electrical, guys, if there's anything on the report that your client's unsure about or they want more information on, just hire an electrician to go out there and give you a better assessment. Because remember, the inspection company, they're not electricians either. They're there to inspect and to tell you where the deficiencies are and to point it out to you. So as much as AAA helps so much, like they'll give you a lot more information than they even need to give you a lot of times. But certain things like this, you just want to talk to an electrician. And then this is part of building your team. I always talk about building your team. You have to have a good inspector as part of your team. You also want to have a good electrician, maybe a couple of electricians, for whenever stuff like this comes up, and they can come to the house and better assess and explain the situation to your client. Because they might be able to look at it and say, oh, okay, well, I see what's going on. It's a quick fix that'll cost X, Y, and Z. Or, you know what, this thing is really messed up. It's going to cause you a lot of issues, X, Y, and Z. Like they're the professionals in that aspect. So start looking for a good electrician to add to your team, because this stuff is kind of common.
Yep, very common. So yeah, usually if you see that, it's not good. It's bad work. They shouldn't be double tapping. That's called arching, something I learned yesterday. But if there is no more space for them to put brackets, that means they need a new box of the electricity. If they need a new box, that means they need a new panel. They need a new panel. That's when they have to go to the city and ask for permission to get that done. Again, that's more electrician stuff that they have to go get all those permits and get all that taken care of. Another most common one here is B1, the GFCIs present. These cost around $15 each at Home Depot or Lowe's. And these do need to be present in the kitchen, the bathrooms, the garage, and the exterior outlets. If it is an exterior outlet, we will put there, it needs the little box, the covered box, to protect it from the water and whatnot. So that is very common. You'll see that a lot, especially in the older homes.
And do you guys know what the GFCIs are for?
To prevent you getting electrocuted.
To prevent you getting electrocuted.
Mm-hmm.
And also so that you don't have to, like, if there's a, what is it called? If there's a spark, it's contained to that area. Mm-hmm. But the older homes, you're going to see a lot of the older homes, they don't have GFCIs because it just wasn't part of it wasn't part of the permitting process before. So remember, just like we're constantly learning and growing, so is everybody else. So what you had to do to have a permit on your house in 1970 to what you have to do now is going to be very different. And so in the older homes, you're going to come across the GFCIs missing a lot. Keep in mind, even though it's something that is important, that one is also a very common deficiency. That one is so common that a lot of your handymen will actually be able to take care of that. Like for that, you might not even need an electrician. It's a pretty low cost to get it fixed, $15 each. Of course, if it's the entire house, it's going to add up. But just be aware that you are going to see that one a lot. And the reason it's important for you to know like why you're seeing these also is because a lot of times when the buyer sees something like this, they just think like, I know la casa, like the house is, you know, it's just so bad maintained. And it's like, well, no, it's not really badly maintained. It's just that the house has been built years ago and it looks like it's only had 1 or 2 owners. And the electricity is probably functioning fine, but since then there have been certain safety recommendations made by the city and different codes that are now the home is just kind of out of date. So you're going to see a lot of that stuff in the older homes, especially. Okay.
Yes. So you'll see examples here outside. The exterior cover didn't have and then we'll show you pictures of what they actually need. I think he has pictures.
No,
Yes, me está secando la voz. You didn't? Oh yeah, here you are. Here's an example of a GFCI. That's what they need. Those are all just examples.
So you'll see it, guys, when you walk into the house, you'll see if the outlet doesn't have these 2 little buttons right here, then it's missing the GFCIs. So the very first time that you walk into the house, you can even make your buyer aware of it. Whenever you're aware of these things and you let them know before it even comes out on the inspection report, it helps them feel more comfortable with you as well, because it shows that you have some knowledge. So obviously we're not inspectors, and you know, we're not going to know everything from top to bottom about a property and how it's built, but learn as much as you can possibly learn. Take the time to keep coming to these types of trainings. And then, like I said, when you're out there getting an inspection done with your client, especially for you new agents, take the time to go to the inspections with your first few clients. That's going to be the best way for you to just kind of pick up on certain language, common deficiencies, and just kind of what to expect.
Yes. So our next one is the heating equipment.
Heating and cooling, or just heating, okay.
Yeah, so on this one, everything was good on this one. Because I think the gas was turned off. So it'll show you here, remember the X? X is going to see NI, not inspected. Why? Gas utility was turned off, couldn't properly inspect.
So that brings us to a good point also. If you are representing the buyer, make sure that when you schedule the inspection, you always confirm with the listing agent that all the utilities have been turned on. All of the utilities, otherwise everything's not going to get inspected. And so whoever this buyer was, I can tell you right now, they were not happy about this. Why? Because they paid for an entire inspection, and then one of the top units, the furnace, did not get inspected because the gas was not turned on. So now guess what has to happen? You, the buyer's agent, has to go back to the listing agent and say, hey, the gas wasn't turned on, we couldn't inspect everything. And then the listing agent has to go back and tell their seller, and then somebody has to pay for a reinspection. Who's going to pay for that reinspection? Now you have to figure that out. And depending on how stubborn that seller is, because I've seen it before, some sellers will just say, oh well, I'm not going to pay for a reinspection. I thought the gas was on, or oh well, or whatever the case may be. Like, it's just going to cause you headaches if you don't confirm that the utilities are turned on before. Now, if you confirm and there's a mess up, it's a lot easier for you and the other agent to figure something out. But also, if you're a listing agent, the best thing to do is just to have the utilities turned on from the beginning. When you take that listing, just have them turn on their utilities. They're going to need them on for the inspections. You want them to at least have the electricity on for showings. But I always just tell them, look, just have all the utilities on. It's one less thing you have to do later. If I get an offer tomorrow, they could set up an inspection the very next day. That's not going to give you enough time to turn on the utilities. And now you're slowing down the process of your home sale, which is what you want to do. So try to get into the habit of having your sellers turn on the utilities from the very beginning, okay? And if your seller messes up and doesn't turn on the utilities and says that they're turned on, please do the right thing and make them pay for the reinspection. Don't be that listing agent that gives the buyer's agent the runaround because you didn't do your job or your client didn't do your job. Remember, as advisors, we're not only here to tell our clients what they want to hear, but also what they need to hear. And there's plenty of sellers that get away with not paying for a reinspection when they do something like this, and that's just not cool. Nobody's going to want to work with you after that because they're going to blame it on you. Okay? Had to throw that out there.
I don't know this stuff. I just work here. I'm just here for the raffles, guys. Just kidding. Okay, so here, everything was working correctly. What you would see, very common, if we did find it, before, bravo for, if this was an HVAC. So it'll let you know on B4, keep in mind refrigerated air was retrofitted to original equipment from evaporated air. Okay, so that's just letting you know there used to be evaporated air. Now we made it to HVAC and we made it fit to this. They need to be leveled. You see that little red thing right here? That is my inspector's level. If it is not leveled, the AC works harder to function to get the AC to where it needs to. So the life expectancy would be less if it's doing that. Just like changing out filters. You need to change out the filters. That way it doesn't work as hard. It lasts longer and whatnot. If it is not leveled, put a piece of wood, a rock, something to just level it out. It's something very, very simple. That's it for that one. Another little thing that might be an issue if it's found, this part of the AC will need to have insulation. If it's not insulated, we'll make a little side note to let you know. It costs about $25. And if the sun is, why? Because if the sun is beating on it all day, and it's trying to get as much cool air into the house, but the sun's beating on it, it's going to lose efficiency. $25, insulate it, you're good to go.
Yeah, that's a pretty
Simple
common one
stuff.
too, that you're going to see a lot of times. Either it's missing or it's deteriorated a lot of times.
So yeah, very simple stuff. And that's just more pictures of the unit.
And everything that we're going over, if your buyer is there at the time of the inspection, the inspectors for AAA do a great job they review this with the client after the inspection. Like, so they'll do their inspection and then they'll ask them like, hey, come over so I can show you what it is. So they actually get to review the report with your client before it gets emailed out to them. So all of this information is everything that they're going to go over with them, and your client will have an opportunity to ask questions. If you're there, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. I do recommend that you kind of like let the inspectors do their job while they're doing their job, but feel free to ask all the questions that you want once they're done.
Yeah, and so we will check the AC and the heater inside. You'll see the temperature. This one on the vents and stuff, it'll just have a broken vent stack, which needs to be replaced. Again, This was in the laundry room, so that just needs to be covered. Corrected. Plumbing system. This is number 3 on our list for
Top ticket items.
top ticket items. On this one, you'll see A2 again. A2 is very common for it to be blue because it's a defect. And what that means is the static pressure reading is 50 psi. The normal reading needs to be between 40 and 80. If it is not, if it's below or if it's over, they need to get a regulator. So they'll need to call a plumber for them to do that, because they'll need a regulator and an expansion tank that needs to be installed. That usually costs around 350, 150 for them to fix, correct, install, redo. Those are the main things. But yeah, as long as the PSI is good.
And that's basically just to regulate the water pressure that's going and coming to the house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you'll see pictures of, if we found leaks, those are major things. Leaks. We will recommend backflow prevention nozzle to all exteriors. They need to fix that, obviously. Major things that we'll show pictures of. And then if you don't know what these things are, like I said, we will put pictures. This is what you need. This is what it needs to look like. The drains, waste, and vents. This one again, the leaking or that the water wasn't draining as fast. But yeah, those are the major issues. Keep in mind, we also do the sewer scopes now, which are the cameras that will go underneath the house to check everything. They aren't needed, but we do recommend them on older houses. We'll stick the camera through the roof or through the side plumbing to check underneath the house and see the status of the plumbing. The water heating equipment. On this one, C2 is very common. There is no overflow pan. What that is there is literally a little pan that'll go under the
water heater.
Mm-hmm. For leaks and stuff.
Yeah, you're gonna see that one a lot, guys. That there's no drip pan. They'll either call it a drip pan or an overflow pan. And from what the inspectors have told me, they pretty much said it's not expensive. It's just literally a pan. Mm-hmm. But to install it can be expensive because the entire water heater has to be removed and then replaced back in. So what they typically say is it's just a good idea for you to know that that's needed. And when it's time to get a new water heater, make sure you add it in at that time.
Yeah, what she's saying is right here. No overflow pan was present. Recommend correction when new water heater is placed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then here, I think the only thing that was missing here was the on this one. A relief valve did not seem to be existing towards the exterior as such may cause damage to base and floors. Recommend correction and switching over to watts. So I think it'll show a picture of what it needs to look like. Yeah, it does. So here there needs to be a valve that goes outside, which is the TPR, the relief valve for pressure to go outside of the house. Again, clients may or may not know, but recommend for them to go to the inspection. That way the inspector can explain it to them and show them like, oh, it's very simple. You just need to add the valve for it to go outside, et cetera, et cetera. And then other Gas line on back exterior laundry room showed to be missing shut-off valve. Recommend correction. So the shut-off valve costs usually around $35, and what they're talking about is this one. The valve, the shut-off valve in the laundry room. We're almost done, guys. I know it's long. Dishwashers. Again, the most common one you'll see is no air gap is present. If you click on these, it'll give you definitions of what we're talking about. And we'll show you pictures. What that means, this gas line, or not the gas line, I'm sorry, the air gap needs to look like this. So it actually needs to, the dishwasher's over here, it needs to actually come up here, be attached, and then come back down and be attached to the bottom of the countertop. It needs to look like this. So that's all that means. Very simple stuff, but if you read it, you freak out. Mm-hmm. But it's very common, and all they need to do is like hose it up for it to like do that specific curve.
And a lot of these are teaching opportunities for you to tell your clients also. Like it says, dishwasher is not properly braced to the cabinet. This is something that I don't think it's super common on dishwashers. I think this one's a lot more common on the stove, and it might say it when we get to it. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times on the stove, you'll see that it says something like that. That's a big safety concern for anybody that has small children. Mm-hmm. It's basically if you have any type of like shelving, bookshelves, like cabinets, the stove, the dishwasher, if they're not adjusted to the wall correctly, like if they're not bracketed to the wall correctly and a small toddler comes and grabs onto it, the entire thing will come with them. So that's a safety feature. That's I kind of use that as like a teaching moment for my clients. So again, we're not inspectors, but the more you know, the more you can set them up for success, because you might just be giving a tour of the home and notice that there's, if there's a toddler with you, one of the client's kids, like make sure that whatever they're grabbing onto is actually attached to the wall. Like if you see it, you got to look out for it also. And now you give the parents something else to look out for that they might have not known about before.
Yeah. So that's a very good point on that. We do it on the stove. It's called a anti-tip device, where, because we will pull out the stove to check for the gas lines. There's like a little, it looks like a U. It's a square, but it's a U where literally the stove clips onto, because like she said, if the kids are playing on the oven and they pull it, the whole thing will fall on them. So this device protects them from it being stable and not falling on the kids. For the stove. For the microwave, mostly we'll check functionality on the ranges, cooktops, and ovens. We will pull out the stove to check for the gas. Everything was good on this one. The fan cover missing upstairs by bedroom, recommend correction. As you can see the picture, they either need to put a fan or cover that thing. And then towards outside garage, the most common thing we'll see here usually will be the sensors. So they're the little black things that are on the garage, which is a sensor. In case the garage door is dropping, it'll send something. If there's a kid, it won't go down and smash them. It'll go back up. They're very common. I'm sure you guys have seen them and what we're talking about. And that's pretty much it. The sensors, the dryer vent was functional. My inspectors will stick their camera in, just make sure that it's clear so that that heat is coming out for the dryer. Doorbell was defective, recommend correction. Simple stuff.
The swimming pool, that's also a separate inspection, right?
No, it'll be on there.
It'll be on there.
Okay. But if it's not on there, again, this is a CYA. We don't know if there was a pool out there in the past and they just put dirt and grass on it. We don't know that. If there is no pool, you will always see this. Swimming pool, spas, and hot tubs. A pool is not present, and further information, evaluated, inspected permits, and or city regulations are not part of the Texas standard. It is advised that the client seek any further information before closing of the property. It's there because if they buy the house and there was a pool back there and the kid is playing in the backyard and they sink in because they didn't cover it properly, we don't know that. So that's just FYI, we'll let you know we didn't check for one. There wasn't one, but it's there. And it's just for safety. And then they'll have a glossary of things that they might have known or not known. That way they can read it, understand it, Google it. And then at the end, you'll have your summary. And so this is what we consider everything you need to negotiate. Depending on your client, you guys will review this. This is what we found on the roof. This is what we found in the plumbing and the ceiling, the doors. Should we negotiate the windows? No, my brother does windows. Okay, we'll take care of that on our own. Do we need to take care of the plumbing? Yeah, we don't know anybody. We don't know anything about that. Let's take care of that. The dishwasher, no, I'm sure we can fix it. So it just depends. The summary is yours for you guys to review with your client and figure out what to do. But again, roof, we always recommend for you guys to do all, electrical, all, and plumbing, all, for the most part. Those are their top three major ticket items.
And hopefully now that you've kind of been through one and you've seen some of these pictures, you can see how a lot of these items you can point out to the buyers as you're walking through the property. The first time that you're walking through the property, personally, I feel like the more you explain about the property while you're there, the less this comes as a surprise. And you already kind of know, okay, like there's various cracks on the stucco. I already know to look for that. I can see from here that, the roof, it's missing a couple of shingles, or there is cracking from here. I can see when I'm in the house that there's cracking on the walls. I can tell that there's a leak under the sink because when I open up the cabinets, there's a big water stain, or whatever the case may be. Like, a lot of these things, when you're walking through the home with the client, you can actually see them ahead of time and kind of point them out. And it just shows that you are paying attention and that you are seeing this, and you should take all of these items into consideration when you're negotiating the deal. Now, once we have the property inspection report, we have a second opportunity to go back and renegotiate. So there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can either renegotiate for them to take care of these repairs and fix them themselves, or we can also get money in lieu of. So let's say that you had negotiated a home purchase of $200,000 with no closing costs. They weren't going to help you with any seller's concessions. Well, after looking at your report and doing some calculations, maybe getting a plumber in there to plumber and electrician to give you an estimate, you might see, like, you know what? It's going to cost them about $2,000 to get everything up to par. That's what we're going to ask for. So there's a lot of things that you can do with this inspection report after you've actually gotten the inspection as well. Okay. Do you guys have any questions?
Can you email me the report example so I can kind of look through it for what I missed?
Okay.
Just so that I can kind of look through it and just see.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yay, thank you.
Angie, any questions on your end? No? I know Anai's seen a couple of these now with me, so she's maybe a little bit more familiar. And then, like I said, we're recording this, so we are going to post it. And for any agents that are watching this after the recording, you guys can always get a hold of us via email. Would probably be best for me at Denise@realty1mb.com. You can get a hold of Caro and her team at
915-317-5062.
All right, can you repeat that?
915 317-5062.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And before we finish out, another thing that AAA offers is they actually offer home warranties. So if you guys, if your client gets a inspection through AAA, they also have the opportunity to get a home warranty, just like any other buyer. If they go through the home warranty with AAA, they actually get 18 months worth of home warranty for the same price that most other home warranty companies will give you 12 months worth. So that's an added incentive that you and your clients can take advantage of also.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we have tickets to give away. Girl, I don't know how you want to do this.
I was just getting to her. And Sierra,
So-
everybody gets two. Two.
We can all
Why
get,
don't we just do it this way? Angie obviously gets a set, and then the other four of us just go together.
that's what I say. I say us four go together to one of them, and then
Angie, if you want to
gets
come with
the
us, you're more than
other
welcome.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you guys can do it however you want.
four. Okay. Awesome. Well, congratulations, Angie. You have your 4-pack of tickets to the El Paso Rhinos game versus the Junior Brahmas.
Mhm.
Brahmas. Okay, Texas Junior Brahmas. And this is going to be on Saturday, January 23rd, which is this coming Saturday.
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am. So we'll have these for you in the office. We'll have them dropped off today in the office. If you want to, yeah, can you drop them off today? On your way? We'll drop them off in the office, and then you can pick them up at any time before then. Okay?
Thank
Are you
you.
still recording?
Yes, ma'am. Let me stop recording. Thank you, guys. Let me just stop recording, and then you can tell me whatever craziness you want to tell me.